Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you're looking for the absolute best insights to the podcast that you love, you've come to the right place. Now take your hand or mouse or finger and smash subscribe. Let's get into it. We're in 1916. We're at 1 hour and 13 minutes and 16 seconds with Jon Bernthal. Absolute beast of a podcast this is. There's too many gems to count. And I'm just going to get right into why I chose this clip. Because I think it kind of explains itself in what I had written here when I was dictating in my car. They start to talk about toxic masculinity. The examples of men that are presented to us. What type of men are you surrounding yourself with? Things like that are very necessary to talk about as men. Joe said very fittingly that most of what we see that we have branded as toxic masculinity is just a bunch of losers, which is so true, because the men who are very good examples of what a man is, they tend to just be out in life being good men. They don't beat their chest about how they're feminist. They don't have to stand out in all sorts of things like nail polish and wearing dresses. And oppositely, they don't need to talk about how many women they've banged, about their sexual exploits, how good they're dressed, how much money they have, what kind of car they have, how big their house is. These good men don't find themselves doing that. They're just out being good men. Let's get into it.
I think for me it's just, again, people talk about like masculinity and this term that gets thrown around all the time, like this toxic masculinity and whatever the fuck that means. And I just think that, again, it's like, what are the examples that we're putting forward, and what are the examples of people, as fathers, what kind of men are you surrounding yourself by? What are the things that are important to you? And I think it's not, to me at least, it's not, some sort of rejection of these classically masculine traits. I think that, having the ability and understanding you have the responsibility to keep your family safe is absolutely essential in being a man and in providing. I think having a healthy relationship with violence, having an understanding of it. I think teaching your kids to have a relationship with violence where they're not being ruled by fear or shame, but they can have some sort of understanding, some sort of they can touch it, they understand it a little bit, they know what they're doing. I think it's essential. And I also think, being accepting, being kind, being open, being generous, being empathetic are also, part of being a man. And I think that, oftentimes, because so many of the people I think who are kind of leading the charge and who have, so much, sort of have so much of the platform at their disposal, are kind of leading in these sort of toxic ways where it's all a bunch of bombast and bullshit. And to me, it's been my experience, folks who really know what they're doing in that world, really don't need to, show off about it at all.
Right, the people that are high achievers, they don't really have to beat their own chest and
I think that's right.
blow their own horn.
I think that's right.
Yeah, what we think of as toxic masculinity is really a bunch of losers. So a lot of it is like the worst example. But you could get the same, there's no term toxic femininity, right? But there's toxic human beings, and some of them happen to be male, and some of them happen to be female. But it's not an indictment on male,
Right.
The male gender of the species. That's
Right.
crazy.
Right.
And the idea that you don't need men, that somehow or another, like, the female is the future. It's like, what are you talking about? That's crazy.
Yeah.
You need a balance. There's a yin and a yang in this life for a reason.
That's right.
All of it goes together.
That's right.
It's just everybody has to do better.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've really, on this thing that I'm trying to do.
I really appreciate that that whole thing that they go into, just talking about, you know, how toxic masculinity does actually show the worst examples of men. And I think it's just as bad when you see somebody like Dan Balzerian, and he's just like swimming in women, and he's just like, you know, I don't care about any of these ladies. Like, I think that's bad. And I also think that people saying that Harry Styles in a dress is like, should be the norm. Like, I think both of those examples are toxic masculinity. I think one is hyper masculine and the other one's hyper feminine. And I think neither of those should be the norm. Like, the norm should be the men who we see every day. Every Thursday or Wednesday, I see a garbage man come to my house, and he waves and he says, "What's going on?" And I know that guy's about to work for 12 more hours, and it's freezing, and he's hanging off the side of a garbage truck. Like, and he's going home to kids, and he's showering up before he sits down with them because he doesn't want to smell like garbage. Like, that's a good man. It's a good man. You know, I was interviewing somebody once, and I forget who, he was a men's coach. And he said something along the lines of like his dad he never saw his dad in like 23 years miss one day of work. And he did it so he could provide for the gentleman I was talking to and his brother. I believe it was a brother. Like, that's a good man. You know? That guy's not swimming in women and telling you all about the last chick that he banged. And he's definitely not walking around trying to be as feminine as possible to virtue signal to some other type of crowd. He's just working and taking care of his family. Like, that's, in my mind, that's a good man. That's a great example of a man. Every single man, gay, straight, non-bi, whatever, anybody can look at that man that I'm talking about right now and be like, that's a good man. When I look at Joe Rogan, I see a good man. That guy is open to perspectives. He talks to anybody who's willing to sit down and talk with him. He's clear-headed. He's never bullish. He's never super angry with anybody. He never raises his voice with anybody. And he just talks things out. You know, Jordan Peterson, a great man, always willing to explore ideas, always willing to talk with anybody, whether they hate him or they love him. Always, always. Just amazing examples. And we don't, for some reason, we're demonizing those examples of men, you know, and we're spotlighting these other types of men. And I just like Joe said, it's like there needs to be a balance of some kind, you know. It's like people who are into the hyper masculine type of man, they're like, that has to be the norm and that's all there is. And then people who are into the guys who are like just painting their nails and like just wearing frilly dresses all the time. Like, and I'm not even talking about anybody who's trans. I'm not talking about just regular guys who are just like, I want to wear a skirt and this is the new normal and this is how it should be. It's like, and then people are like, that should be the norm. It's like, no, it shouldn't. Neither should be the norm. You should just be able to just be a guy. However that looks to you. I don't know. Like right now, I'm wearing a hoodie. I got hand tattoos, but I'm wearing a pink shirt. You know? And I got a pink hat over there that I like to wear. But I also got a black hat that I like to wear. And I love Joe Rogan. I love Andrew Tate. But also I think that as a man that you should know how to cry and you should know when that's appropriate to do. And you should be able to display those type of feelings at any given time. And I think if you meet a man who's hyper feminine or hyper masculine, you should be treating them both with the same amount of respect that they treat you with. I think you should be open to different people of different perspectives. I think if somebody approaches me with a racist attitude, I think I should be level-headed enough to not just knock them out. I should be able to hear them out, and I should be able to try and speak as the best form of maybe the best black person that they've ever met. And I should leave them with that. You know? And I feel like, you know, I don't know. I don't know. But I know good men are just, they're just being good men. And there's probably a lot of good men watching this. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just feel like, there's not enough good men who are showing up as examples. The guys I coach, they're just involved fathers, just so involved, so there for their kids, so there for their wives. And it's like nobody puts a spotlight on these guys. It's always the extremes that get the spotlights, but there's just men who are, and I guess it's because it's not sexy and it's not sensational and it's not fabulous and it's not, hardcore. It's not top G. These guys are just waking up. They're just working. And they're just doing what they have to do to make sure that their family has everything. Like, I don't know. I think that's the man that deserves the spotlight more than anybody. And I wish we would give him that spotlight more. Anyway, I'm out. Peace.